The Mass in Antwerp. This iconic museum on the river is located in the Little Island, a vibrant district transformed from a former port area. Where this building now stands, there once rose a remarkable structure with deep ties to Antwerp's maritime history, the Hanseatic House. Let's uncover the secrets of this forgotten giant. Our story starts in Bruges. In the early Middle Ages, Bruges evolved to become an international and industrious port and trading city thanks to its favorable location and the connection with the sea. The famous Flemish cloth provided an economic boost from the 11th century onwards. This attracted a lot of people who wanted a piece of the action, and the population grew rapidly. Merchants from all over Europe came and settled in the city. New buildings were constructed, such as the Belfry with the City Hall on the Market Square, St. John's Hospital, several churches, and important commercial infrastructure like the water halls. During this period, the world's very first stock exchange was also established in Bruges. By the 14th century, Bruges could proudly count itself among the most important trading centres in northwest Europe. The city was a trading post, or contour, of the Hanseatic League. This was a medieval commercial and defensive network of merchant guilds and market towns in Central and Northern Europe. Growing from a few North German towns in the late 12th century, the League expanded between the 13th and 15th centuries and ultimately encompassed nearly 200 settlements across 8 modern-day countries, ranging from Estonia in the north and east to the Netherlands in the west, and extended inland as far as Cologne, the Prussian regions, and Krakow in Poland. During its time, the Hanseatic League dominated maritime trade in the North and Baltic Seas. It established a network of trading posts called contours. These were legal entities established in cities that did not belong to the Hanseatic League. There were contours in London, Bruges, Bergen, and Novgorod. The contour of Bruges stood out because the Hanseatic League's activities weren't concentrated in just a few buildings, but were spread throughout the town. A special building was only acquired in the 15th century. It features in The Seven Wonders of Bruges by Peter Claessens the Elder. The orange building with the tower in the right background is the Hanseatic House, also known as Oosterlingenhuis. The city did not lie directly on the North Sea, but was accessible via the Zwin, a tidal inlet formed by a storm in 1134. The ports of Dam and Sluis were located along this inlet and provided access to Bruges. However, the Zwin began to progressively silt up in the 13th century. By the mid-15th century, the silting of the Zwin was seriously harming Bruges's trade. Trade deteriorated so much in the 16th century that the Hanseatic League decided to move the contour to Antwerp. While the golden age of Bruges came to an end, it marked the beginning of a new era for Antwerp. Since 1468, the Hanseatic League owned a property in the city. The House de Cloyes on the old grain market, where it can still be found today. However, this small Hanseatic house never served as an office or warehouse. It was merely a pied-à-terre. The Hanseatic League also owned a second building in Antwerp, which served as an inn. When the office was permanently moved from Bruges to Antwerp, these two houses quickly proved insufficient given the new boom in trade, so a search began for a new and larger building. An architect was quickly found. The choice fell on Cornelis Floris, one of the local celebrities who was at that time working on the construction of the Antwerp City Hall. Finding a suitable building site, however, was more challenging. In the old city centre, there wasn't enough space for a monumental building, so they eventually agreed on land in the nearly undeveloped Nieuwstad. There was still plenty of space there. Construction began in 1564, and the building was completed 4 years later. It was a gigantic rectangular building. It measured approximately 80 meters on the long sides and 62 meters on the short sides. By comparison, the City Hall is only 68 meters by 26 meters. The building was constructed around a spacious inner courtyard, which was accessed through 4 gates placed in the middle of each side. The main entrance was built monumentally and crowned with a triangular pediment. Above this rose the beautifully executed tower, which stood out somewhat against the otherwise austere architecture of the building itself. The ground floor housed warehouses. The upper floors consisted mainly of living quarters, which were rented out to merchants staying in Antwerp. Additionally, there were 32 attic rooms for the household staff. All these rooms were numbered, which was very unusual for that time since houses in the city did not have numbers either. To help the illiterate find their way around the Hanseatic House, each door was also given a name. Besides the names of apostles, religious and mythological figures, animal names were predominantly used. This sometimes led to odd addresses, such as merchants who had donkey, chicken, pig, haddock or herring on their doors. The purpose of the Hanseatic House was to ensure that Hanseatic merchants no longer lived scattered throughout the city, but instead fostered a sense of community and togetherness. A distinction was made between permanent residents and temporary ones, such as those who were only present during the annual fairs. Strict penalties were imposed on merchants who were in Antwerp year-round, but did not reside in the Hanseatic House. The construction of the Hanseatic House coincided with the end of Antwerp's glory years. When the Spanish Duke of Alva, also known as the Iron Duke, conquered the city in 1568 following the iconoclasm, the climate for doing business became unfavorable, and many Hanseatic merchants left the city. During the outbreak of the Spanish Fury in 1576, the merchants suffered heavy losses due to plundering by Spanish soldiers, and the exodus began in earnest. By 1579, many Hanseatic merchants had already left the city. The exodus continued during the siege of the city in 1584 and after the conquest and blockade of the Scheldt in 1585. By the end of the 16th century, the last of the Hanseatics had left the city. The abandoned Hanseatic House was subsequently used for various purposes, but with each new function, it lost some of its splendor. During the next 2 centuries, the building was used as a military hospital, military prison, and Protestant temple, among other things. At the beginning of the 19th century, when the city was under French rule, the area around the Hanseatic House underwent significant changes. Napoleon recognized the enormous strategic importance of Antwerp and sought to make it the pistol aimed at the heart of England. He planned to modernize the port and ordered docks to be dug around the Hanseatic House, creating a sort of peninsula. The building itself was not demolished by the French because it could still be effectively used as a warehouse and served as protection for the ships behind it against bombardments from the Scheldt. After the fall of Napoleon, the building was restored, but it lost all of its former grandeur. The tower was partially demolished, and a blunt spire was placed on the remaining part. A large number of windows were bricked up. It now truly looked like a warehouse. In 1880, the city acquired the building and converted it into a grain warehouse. It was intended as an experiment to handle grain in a more modern way. The entire courtyard was filled with massive vertical silos. In December 1893, disaster struck. The building caught fire and burned down. The fire brigade could do no more than protect the surrounding houses. Not much of the building was left standing. Apart from the sturdy tower and a few remnants of walls, only the twisted metal silos remained upright in a massive pile of rubble. Thus ended the history of the once famous Hanseatic House, which had been a landmark for centuries. After clearing the debris from the fire, 2 rows of metal sheds were erected on the vacant site. Later, warehouses were built there. Here we see how the area looked in the 1930s, and these photos show the situation at the beginning of the 21st century. In 1998, the Antwerp City Council decided to build a new museum on this site. During the excavation work, the foundations of the Hanseatic House became visible. In September 2006, the first brick of the building was laid. It was designed by Neuteling's Riedig architects. The construction took just under 4 years. In May 2011, the Maas, or Museum on the River, opened to the public. The Maas collection consists of more than 600,000 objects related to the art, cultural traditions, and history of the city and port of Antwerp. It also includes artifacts about overseas shipping and trade, as well as the art, cultural traditions, and history of Europe, Asia, Africa, America, and Oceania. The collection tells stories about Antwerp, the port, and the world. Next time you are in Antwerp, pay a visit to the museum. Mass visits are free of charge. Visitors only pay to see the permanent and the temporary exhibitions in the museum rooms. The panoramic view from the rooftop is truly worth the visit.